Hello from Kingfisher, Oklahoma. Today we're going to look at 5 things from 1 Samuel 22 and 23. Well, number 1, David is still on the run from Saul. Saul's mad because David's going to be the new king, and Saul has been rejected by God, so he's trying to kill the people. But David is out there in the wilderness. His family is joining him. All sorts of people are coming to him, so he's gaining some popularity. 2, yesterday we read that the priest helped David. David was hungry as he's escaping from Saul. Priest gives him bread. Doeg the Edomite saw the priest help David, and maybe he wants to get higher in the king's esteem, so he's going to help Saul, and he tells him about this priest who helped. Well, Saul then, this is awful, by the way, condemns the priest to death, and Saul says, you go kill him. So Doeg goes in there and kills 85 priests, slaughters them. Then he puts the priest city to the edge of the sword and kills men, kills women, kills children, all this livestock. It's a terrible tragedy, and Doeg does it just to get in better with Saul. And Saul, being in charge of it, he gets the blame here. So he crossed too many lines, and this often happens, I think, that once we kind of dip our toe in some sin and some things that we shouldn't be doing or don't want to be doing, then it becomes easier to cross the line. And we see this with Saul. He kind of, I offered the sacrifice and shouldn't have. I've been rejected by God. But now he's just going deeper and deeper into sin, and it's really hard to get out. 3, David is still seeking God. He's unlike Saul. Saul is getting farther away from God, and we're seeing David rise. It's kind of like, opposites there, antithesis. David goes to rescue a city that's under attack. He's helping while Saul is hurting. God continues to converse with David. David's seeking God out. Should I go help this city? Yes, you should. If I go to this city, will they hand me over to Saul? Yes, they will. So because he has a great relationship with God, he's hearing from God as he seeks him. So this also shows that God knows the future of possibilities. David hadn't gone to the city yet, nor had Saul left his city yet. But God knows the possibility of what could happen. If you go there, then they will turn you over to Saul. So pretty awesome. That shows that God's not just watching at the same time as the rest of us, but he knows all the possibilities. He's all-knowing. Number 4, later, when David has gone off into the woods, Jonathan meets up with him and reassures him that they still have a great relationship. Jonathan tells David, you're still the king, you're anointed, and when you get crowned king, I'll be by your side as a friend. This is pretty big. If you know anything about kings and queens, usually it doesn't go this smoothly. They don't play nicey nice. The person in line for the throne from Saul is Jonathan. He should be the one, but he's being humble, he's being kind, he loves his friend and knows that God elevated him. So David and Jonathan, both in the right place. Saul, yep. And he's still angry. We find that number 5, and we just see this kind of like David goes here, Saul chases him. David goes there, Saul chases him. So Saul is like spending all this time just trying to crush David, trying to hold on to something that God has taken away from him. And maybe there's a lesson in there for us that if God has taken something away from us, we need to get right with God and see what the new thing is that God will do. Well, let's jump into it. Chapter 22. David therefore departed thence and escaped to the cave of Adullam. When his brethren and all his father's house heard of it, they went thither to him. And everyone that was in distress, and everyone that was in debt, and everyone that was discontented, gathered themselves unto him, and he became captain over them. There were with him about 400 men. And David went thence. Remember, he left the king's house by himself, and now he's got 400 guys. David went thence to Mizpah of Moab, and said unto the king of Moab, Let my father and mother, I pray thee, come forth and be with you till I know what God will do for me. And he brought them to the king of Moab, and they dwelt with him all the while that David was in the hold. So please protect my parents. You can imagine that Saul might do something nasty to them just to get at David. The prophet Gad said unto David, Abide not in the hold, depart, get thee into the land of Judah. And David departed and came into the forest of Hereth. Do what God says, when he says it, by the way. Verse 6, When Saul heard that David was discovered, and the men were under him, now Saul rode to Gibeah under a tree in Ramah, having a spear in his hand, and all his servants were about him. Then Saul said to his servants that stood by him, Hear now, ye Benjamites, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards? Will he make you all captains of thousands and captains of hundreds? That all you have conspired me, and there is none that showeth me that my son hath made a league with the son of Jesse? There is none of you that is sorry for me, or showeth me that my son has stirred up my servant against me to lie in wait as to this day? So hey, David's not going to promote you all. He's not going to take care of you all. Why aren't you helping me, the real king? So here's where it gets crazy. Then answered Doeg the Edomite, which was set over the servants of Saul, and said, I saw the son of Jesse come to Nob, to Ahimelech the son of Ahitub. And he inquired of the Lord for him, and gave him victuals, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. And the king sent to call Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house, the priests that were in Nob, and they came all of them to the king. Saul said, Hear now, son of Ahitub. And he answered, Here am I, my lord. And Saul said unto him, Why have you conspired against me, that thou and the son of Jesse, in that thou gave him bread and a sword, and hast inquired of God for him, that he should rise against me to lie in wait, as it is this day? Ahimelech answered the king, said, And who is so faithful among all thy servants as David, which is thy king's son-in-law, and who goeth against thy bidding, and is honorable in thine house? So he's given this false information, Saul, kind of playing the knucklehead, I guess. And the priest is like, Look, David's still on your side. He's not trying to fight against you. It's you that's doing the wrong thing. And remember, he's your son-in-law. Verse 15, Did I then begin to inquire for him? Be it far from me. Let not the king impute anything unto his servant, nor all the house of my father. For the servant knew nothing of all this, less or more. And the king said, Thou shalt surely die, Abimelech, thou and all thy father's house. The king said unto the footmen that stood about him, Turn, slay the priests of the Lord, because their hand is also with David, and because they knew when he fled and did not show it to me. But the servants of the king would not put forth their hands to fall on the priests of the Lord. Smart. And the king said to Doeg, Turn thou and fall upon the priests. And Doeg the Edomite turned, and he fell upon the priests, and slew that day 85 persons that wear the linen ephod, 85 priests. And Nob, the city of the priests, smote he the edge of the sword, both men and women, children and sucklings, and oxen and asses and sheep, with the edge of the sword. One of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. And Abiathar showed David and Saul that Saul had slain the priests. And David said unto Abiathar, I knew it that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of my father's house. Abide thou with me, and fear not, for he that seeketh my life seeketh thy life. But with me thou shalt be safe. So one of the sons escapes and is going to be safe with David. Chapter 23. Then they told David, saying, Behold, the Philistines fought against Keilah, and they robbed the threshing floors. Therefore David inquired of the Lord, Shall I go smite these Philistines? And the Lord said unto David, Go and smite the Philistines, and save Keilah. And David's men said unto him, Behold, we be afraid here in Judah, how much more if we come to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? And David inquired of the Lord yet again, and the Lord answered him and said, Arise, go down to Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into thy hand. So David and his men went to Keilah and fought with the Philistines and brought away their cattle and smote them with a great slaughter. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. And it came to pass when Abiathar the son of Ahimelech fled to David in Keilah that he came with an ephod in his hand. And it was told Saul that David was come to Keilah. And Saul said, God hath delivered him. He's into my hand, for he is shut in by entering into the town that hath gates and bars. And Saul called down the people together for war to go up to Keilah to besiege David and his men. And David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him, and said to Abiathar the priest, Bring the ephod. Then he said to David, O Lord God of Israel, thy servant hath certainly heard that Saul seeketh to come to Keilah to destroy the city for my sake. Will the men of Keilah deliver me into his hands? And here's where they're asking about the future possibility. To destroy the city for my sake? Will Saul come down, as the servant hath heard? O Lord God of Israel, I beseech thee, tell thy servant. And the Lord said, He will come down. David said, Will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of Saul? And the Lord said, They will deliver thee up. Then David and his men, which were about 600, arose and departed out of Keilah. So they're growing in strength. There was 400, and now it's 600. And went whithersoever they could go. And it was told Saul that David was escaped from Keilah, and he forbare to go forth. And David abode in the wilderness and the strongholds, and remained in the mountain in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul sought him every day, but God delivered him not into his hand. And David saw that Saul was come out to seek his life, and David was in the wilderness of Ziph in a wood. And Jonathan, Saul's son, arose and went to David into the wood, and strengthened his hand in God. And he said unto him, Fear not, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find thee. And thou shalt be king over Israel, and I shall be next to thee. And that also Saul my father knoweth. So Jonathan's saying, my dad knows I'm on your side. And they made it to a covenant before the Lord, and David abode in the wood, and Jonathan went to his house. Then came up the Ziphites to Saul in Gibeah, saying, Doth not David hide himself in the strongholds in the wood, in the hill of Hachilah, which is on the south of Jeshimon? Now therefore, O king, come down, according to the desire of thy soul, come down, and our part shall be to deliver him into the king's hand. Saul said, Blessed be ye of the Lord, for you have compassion on me. Go, I pray you, prepare yet, and know and see the place where his haunt is, and who has seen him there. For it is told to me that he dealeth very subtly. See, therefore, and take the knowledge of all the lurking places where he hideth, and come and go again with certainty. And I will pass with you, and it will come to pass, if he be in the land, that I will search him out throughout all the thousands of Judah. So they're going to turn him over. And they arose and went to Ziph before Saul. But David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, in the plain of the south of Jeshimon. Saul also and his men went to seek him, and they told David, wherefore he came down into a rock and abode in the wilderness of Maon. And when Saul heard that, he pursued David to the wilderness of Maon. And Saul went to the side of the mountain, and David and his men on that side of the mountain. And David made haste to get away for fear of Saul. For Saul and his men encompassed David, and his men came round about. But there came a messenger unto Saul, saying, Haste thee, and come, for the Philistines have invaded the land. Therefore Saul returned from pursuing David, and went to the Philistines. Therefore they called the place Selah Hamalekoth, which means the rock of divisions, because they were on different sides of the rock. David went from thence and dwelt in the strongholds at En-gedi. You see, when we follow God, God will do things to keep us there. He doesn't always, sometimes people still die for their faith and still die doing the right thing. But here we know that David is going to sit on the throne. It's a long path that he has to walk, years and years and years, but he's watching God be faithful. So join us next time, and we'll catch you later.